up guys? For today's video, I'm doing a full walkthrough of the 2024 Tracker ProGuide V16. If you stick around to the end of the video, I'm also gonna be taking this out onto the water and doing its first hour of break-in for the motor. If you guys like this content and you wanna see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe. I got a lot of cool things coming up for this boat and more throughout the year. All right, so for the walkthrough, I'm gonna start with the boat first because if you clicked on this video, I'm sure that's what you're most interested in. After that, I'll go through all the trailer and its features, some of the upgrades I have planned for the boat, and as I mentioned, its first test out on the water. All right, so starting up front, the boat comes equipped with a Minn Kota PowerDrive trolling motor. Personally, I'm gonna be replacing the entire unit with a Minn Kota Terrova with iPilot, but if you wanted to hang on to the trolling motor that comes with the boat, there are some upgrades you can do to it to gain some extra functionality. Moving down to the first set of storage compartments, in here is where your trolling motor battery is located. These are locking covers, so you know that your battery and anything you store up here is safe and secure when you're not with your boat. As I said, this also doubles as a storage compartment. It's actually pretty big. There's plenty you can store on each side of the battery. You have the exact same space on each side, accessible through the two different lids. In addition, this is a pretty waterproof storage area. The hatch lids here have drainage holes, so any water that gets in the tray should, in theory, drain out the holes here down into your boat and out your bilge. Before we go over the live well area, just in the front here, I wanted to show you that there are these bungees here, so you can store tackle boxes up in the front. All right, now that we're in the boat, this is another view of the front deck area. Overall, it's nice and big. There's tons of room up here to cast or even lay out if that's something that you're interested in. One last thing to mention while we're up here before we move on to the live well is that you do have flip up cleats on each side. All right, so now let's take a look at the live well. In here, you have two hatches. This one opens to your bait bucket and this one opens to the live well. This is one live well unit that is not separated by a partition. So when you fill the live well, it'll fill the bait bucket area and vice versa. For the live well, we're using this with just a little bit of storage at the moment. You have your recirculation and aeration and everything on the right-hand side. It comes with a divider here. We've removed this at the moment to gain a little bit of extra storage, but if you were trying to separate fish, you'd be able to do that with the divider, or if you didn't want the fish being able to go over to the bait bucket area, you can also use the divider for that as well. The bait bucket storage comes with the bait bucket. We have that over there at the moment. So you'll be able to keep things like minnows and whatnot in your live well rather than having to have a second bucket. The live well latches are not lockable. Moving back a little further, this is the WT model, which means it has the walk-through windshields. The windshield open and closes in the center and has locks on the top and bottom to keep this secure. Otherwise, you can keep it open. It does have bumpers to protect it when you open it against your glass. All right, so sitting down in the passenger seat here, we have a couple things to go over. You do get a nice tray up front to put things that you don't want sliding around and a cup holder to your left. Over here, you have a cell phone holder. This is actually a really strong bungee. You have another flip-up cleat and a grab handle for holding on while you're driving. For your glove box, this is lockable, so you can store things in here. Personally, I like to keep my fish finders in here when I'm not using them. On the inside, you have a very deep and open cavity. You could really put a lot of stuff in here. In addition to the glove box, there's also storage below. It has a nice little cubby storage down here. Open this up. Again, kind of hard to see without the light, but you do have some under console storage down here. These are also lockable as well, and they're on both the driver and passenger side. Now, one of the new things for the 2024 model is that it comes with the Garmin Striker 4 fish finder. This is still a pretty basic fish finder. This does not have downscan, it is just traditional radar. But the one cool thing is that it does have GPS built into it. So you can still set up waypoint maps so you can track like where you've been on the water and show you like speed data and things like that. Now, unfortunately, this version does not have the contour mapping also, so this is a pretty basic fish finder all in all. But if you're just looking for some basic fish finding capabilities, as long as waypoint mapping, this will get you on the water really well. I have a replacement unit that I'm going to be installing in this boat in another video, but if you're just looking to get started, this is a nice upgrade from the Lowrance hooks that used to come on here. A little bit extra functionality and quality. We have the steering wheel in the center and your key to start your motor on the left-hand side. So for the gauge cluster here, it actually gives you some really great information. The obvious ones are your RPMs and miles per hour, as well as your fuel gauge. However, there's also comes with a trim setting, so it shows you how your motor is trimmed without having to kind of look behind you as you're going underway. In addition, we have a selection of switches here. Starting from the left, we have the live well to turn it on auto or manual. We have the recirculation pump for the live well. We have navigation lights for the front and back of the boat, as well as your bilge. The bilge, unfortunately, is not an automatic bilge. I struggle to understand why they don't always include automatic bilges in these boats, but this is just a switch on to use, switch off when you're not using it. I will probably be installing a float switch to the back bilge, but I'm gonna have to see what kind of access I have back there because it's really hard to get down into your bilge area. I'll show that when we get to the back of the boat. Aside from that, we got a horn. And we have a 12 volt cigarette lighter style port here. On the right hand side over here, we have a flip up cleat and then the throttle control with the trim setting buttons right here. You have a built-in fire extinguisher that does come with the boat. Okay, so moving down the side here, this is your top rod storage. So there's a bungee on this side and towards the end. So when you're storing your rods and you're not looking to keep them locked up, you can actually just lay them right along the top here so they're easy to access. You could put them up there when you're traveling to a new fishing spot, or even trailering, they'll stay in place when you don't want to stuff everything into the rod locker. With that being said, it has a very, very nice rod locker. I believe it holds up to an 8-foot rod. I haven't tested it with my bait caster yet, but overall it's pretty deep. It goes pretty far under there. It comes with the emergency paddle already in the boat. And again, that's also lockable, just like it is on the right-hand side where you get a second rod locker. In here, we have our boat bumpers as well as a net, and this is where the navigation lights are stored for the boat. As far as seating, the boat comes standard with 3 seats. If you want a 4th one, unfortunately, you gotta pay for it, and they are not cheap. With that being said, the basic concept though is that you have a driver and passenger seat and then a floating seat that'll go between the different seat mounts all along the boat. In the back, there's 3 different mounting positions, and then as I mentioned earlier, there's one in the front. Now, coming back to the rear of the boat here, you have a small casting deck, another lockable storage area. This one's a little bit smaller, but you can definitely keep some things in here that you want to keep secure. On the right-hand side, we have the battery compartment. This is where your main accessory and cranking battery is. Just one thing to note in here, there is a fuse for this battery. Our fuse actually came corroded and blew almost immediately, so I had to replace this. But since I replaced it with a new one, we haven't had any issues. On the right-hand side, there's also a folding cleat, as well as on the left-hand side. As I mentioned, that port right there is for your navigation light. And then back here is a cooler. This is a wet storage, so you can use this as just regular storage, but it also has a drain plug if you want to use this as a cooler. Fill up with ice, throw your drinks in there. You don't have to take up floor space with a cooler. And finally, in the splash well area here, we have the gas tank. This is a pressurized system, so when you open this, don't be startled if you get a little bit of a pressure release. There you go on that. And then this is how you access the bilge area. This is what I mentioned, how it's kind of hard to access down here. This is pretty much the only area you have to down where the bilge is. All right, so now that the interior of the boat is done, I'm gonna hop out. We can go over the motor and the trailer. So finishing up the rear of the boat, we have the 90 Mercury outboard. I definitely wanted to max out the horsepower for this boat. I have learned over the years that anytime you're buying a boat, always max out your horsepower rating because you're gonna have a much better time overall on the water. Not too much to go over on the motor. I did have them install a Mercury Vessel View. That way I'll have Bluetooth access to the motor to monitor things like RPMs and hours and any kind of codes and stuff like that. Aside from that, you've got your trim switch here, in addition to the trim at the handle. As far as maintenance on this motor goes, it's actually really easy. There is a port right here for your oil. So when it's time to drain your oil, you can actually hook up a hose to this. You just crack open this valve, flows out, close it back up to tighten it, and then your oil's drained. It's a lot nicer than having to tilt the motors to get it to drain. Keeps everything nice and neat. And lastly, the only thing really to mention on the back of the boat here is it does have a grab handle here. I'm gonna be replacing this grab handle with an emergency ladder coming down the back. And then you have your transducer for the fish finder that runs up here. And then under the deck and then down the side of the boat. All right, so with all that being said, that is the full overview of the boat itself. Now I'm just gonna run through a quick overview of the trailer just to show you guys what it comes with and some possible upgrades you might wanna make. Since I'm already in the back here, we can just start with the back of the boat. It does come with a transom saver. This here is the transom saver that it comes with. I'm not a fan of this. I don't like the plastic end here. It actually kind of marred up the lower unit on the way home. So I'm not gonna be using this one. I actually already have a replacement that I'm gonna be throwing on there. I've used this style before. It works really well. It holds up really well. So this is what's gonna be used when I take it out today. Aside from that, your trailer already comes obviously equipped with all the lights and everything like that, but it does come with ratchet straps for your transom. I am gonna be replacing those with retractable transom straps because that just makes every day you use your boat that much easier. All right, so coming along the side here, you do have a step platform on top of your wheels. Behind the cover, there is a greasing system. This is not just a bearing buddies. This actually will travel the grease through and into the hub and then come back out. So you're not just packing new grease in the front of the hub, this actually greases the full hub when you use that. Basic maintenance is you grease it once a year and then every 3 years you wanna repack your grease. All right, so in the front of the trailer, there's a couple things I wanted to mention. Number one, it does come with a trailer jack, so that makes moving it around really easy. I haven't had any issues with it. It cranks the boat up really nice and easy. On the front here, you have a winch hook, which will connect onto the bow eye of the boat, but it also has this safety hook here for if some reason this strap here breaks, this will still hold the boat onto the trailer and it won't come sliding off. In addition to that, it has one really awesome feature, which is the breakaway swing arm. This gives you about 3 extra feet of trailering space rather than having to back it that much further into the garage. This comes and closes onto the side here. It does use the round style trailer connector, so you want to make sure that your truck is equipped for that if you're going to be using this kind of trailer. All right, guys, well, that is the full walkthrough of the 2024 Tracker Pro Guide V16 WT. At this point, I'm gonna go ahead and get it ready for the water and we're gonna take it out for the first time and do our motor break-in. So just a reminder, if you guys wanna see any of the upgrades I talked about throughout the walkthrough or all the cool stuff I got planned for this boat and other boats throughout the year, don't forget to subscribe. All right, let's get out on the water. It's on.
Sit down and sit still. Slowly go.
All right, guys, well, I'm back after the first day out on the water, and I gotta say, it really performed wonderfully. The main thing I was focusing on while I was out today was breaking in the motor. That went absolutely great. We got our first hour and a half done, so now we're kicking it up to a little bit higher RPMs. Once we got it up to about 4,500 RPMs or so, we were probably cruising around 30 miles an hour. It was really a pleasure to drive. The biggest thing that was most unexpected for me was just how quiet this outboard is. I can't even hear it running when it's on. Absolutely a pleasure to go out with. We filled up the gas tank before we went out there. After about 1.3 hours on the hour meter, we're still like 90% gas. So I mean, fuel efficiency and quietness of this outboard is just top notch. I'm really happy we went with the 90 horsepower for this. Now, for the boat, there's a lot of things that I would really like to change. My biggest complaint was with the trolling motor. There's nothing wrong with this trolling motor if you're interested in a foot pedal style trolling motor, but I absolutely hate them. I have removed them from any boat I've used. I'm going to be replacing it with this Minn Kota Terrova right here. No foot pedal, only a remote. I just like that much better. I can be wherever I want on the boat. I have my controller, you got spot lock. It's just a much nicer experience for me with that kind of trolling motor setup. In general, all of the compartments and everything worked really well. One issue I did run into was when the seat post was in the front mount here with the seat while I was using the trolling motor. These two lids do not open all the way. They open enough where you can access the contents. They probably open till about like right here. And this one's probably about like right here or so. So they're still usable, but we'd want a little bit taller seat post in the front here if you want to access these fully while you have the seat up front. The 3 seats for 3 people is definitely not enough. We were having to juggle the seats around based on where we were in the boat. Myself getting stuck up front using the foot pedal meant that I needed a seat up there. And the seating up front here, we didn't want to move the driver's seat. So it was kind of like one person was on the back seat and someone else was like floating around. Overall, it wasn't a big deal, but when we wanted to change spots on the water, doing the seat shuffle every time you moved was really kind of annoying. So I already had a 4th seat post. I didn't actually have on the boat when I took it out. So I got that on there, which will make moving the seats around a little bit easier. And then I also have a new driver's seat coming for myself. So that seat is then gonna move here, which will get us all 4 seats. I'm also considering buying a 5th seat post to keep mounted in one of the 2 positions. That way, instead of moving the seat and the post, I can just leave a post in either end and then just pop the seat off and put it on the other post. It's really easy to remove the seat from the post. It's less easy to remove the post from the ground. Other than that, everything worked really well. The cooler worked really well. I can see it's all drained out now. This was filled. It held ice the entire day. No problems there. Another pain point was the fish finder. It lacks some features that I'm used to. I have a Garmin EchoMap I'm going to be installing today as well. That will at least give me mapping, which is something that I really miss. Aside from those 2 things, the trolling motor and the fish finder, everything was really good. I'm excited to get these upgrades on here and get it back out on the water to try it again. In the next couple of videos, I'm going to detail how I do a bunch of these upgrades. These upgrades are going to be universal across boats, so it not necessarily have to do with this boat specifically, but if you did happen to have this boat, make sure you subscribe. It's going to pertain to your boat. All right, guys. Well, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to let me know by hitting that like button. If you want to see more videos like this on this boat and other boats I have on the channel, don't forget to subscribe. I got a lot of cool content coming out this year. Thanks for watching.